You know the drill. You book a dirt-cheap ticket, squeeze into a bright yellow plane, and endure the next few hours to save a buck. But imagine showing up to the airport to find out the airline doesn't exist anymore. Before we dive into whether your upcoming flight is about to disappear, take a second to hit the subscribe button for more videos from The Explainer. Spirit Airlines has been fighting a financial undertow for years, which culminated in an official Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing back in August of 2025. But entering bankruptcy didn't mean the end. Spirit had a meticulous survival roadmap named Project SOAR, a plan to shrink their fleet, restructure their massive debt, and exit Chapter 11 by the summer of 2026. Management had the math entirely mapped out. It looked like a solid path forward, assuming every single variable in their spreadsheets held perfectly steady. Now Wall Street is flooded with reports that the turnaround has collapsed and that Spirit could face total liquidation any day now. For passengers, liquidation doesn't mean a graceful exit. It means jets are instantly grounded, routes are wiped off the board, and ticket holders are stranded at the gate with zero notice. To understand why a domestic U.S. budget carrier is suddenly on the brink of being carved up and sold for parts, we have to look thousands of miles away to the Middle East. A renewed wave of U.S.-Iran hostilities has caused massive disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for the global energy trade. That instability immediately spiked the price of crude oil worldwide. For the aviation sector, a threat to these shipping lanes triggers instant supply chain anxiety, and that anxiety translates directly into skyrocketing prices for jet fuel. This chart shows where Spirit's recovery broke down. They assumed jet fuel would average $2.24 per gallon in 2026, but costs nearly doubled by mid-April. This gap adds $360 million in unbudgeted costs to their balance sheet. When you run an ultra-low-cost carrier with practically non-existent profit margins, a foreign fuel shock like this easily wipes out whatever little padding you have left. Spirit was already burning through cash at an alarming rate, losing nearly $100 million in liquidity in just the first 2 months of 2026. Major lenders, acting through institutional agents like Citibank, looked at the new fuel prices and realized the underlying math of Spirit's bankruptcy plan was now a fantasy. Those creditors are now pushing to liquidate the airline immediately. They want to physically repossess valuable collateral like aircraft engines before cash reserves hit absolute zero. In a desperate attempt to fend off that liquidation, Spirit has reportedly reopened merger talks with their primary budget rival, Frontier Airlines, hoping to combine forces to survive. A meticulously crafted corporate restructuring plan on paper means nothing if it collapses the second it hits real-world macroeconomic stress. Even if Spirit manages to escape immediate liquidation, the airline is already preparing to shrink its operation down to just 76 aircraft, effectively abandoning a decade of aggressive, rapid expansion. A global fuel shock acts as a brutal sorting mechanism. It punishes companies whose entire business model relies on rock-bottom operational costs. Contrast that with legacy carriers like Delta. They are uniquely insulated from this crisis because they literally own an oil refinery, allowing them to turn a global fuel shortage into a distinct competitive advantage. The ultra-low-cost model works brilliantly, but only inside a perfectly stable, peaceful global economy. If you do need to book a flight with a distressed airline, the smartest move you can make is to pay with a credit card. If the carrier shuts down overnight, you can file a chargeback and avoid losing your money entirely. But zooming out, the era of hopping across the country for $40 was an anomaly. Those dirt-cheap fares were completely subsidized by a temporary window of cheap fuel and incredibly reliable global supply chains. As global tensions rise and energy markets grow more volatile, the true, unfiltered cost of keeping a giant metal tube in the sky is finally catching up to the consumer.